Good afternoon. My name's Seafood Dave Charlesworth here from KaJuKenBo Napoli in Naples, Italy. It's been a little while since my last video. My apologies for that, but life's been keeping me pretty busy. This video is a continuation of my video series on the principles of fighting. And today I intend on covering a few of those different principles, numbers 3 through 7. I hope that you enjoy this video and that you find some value or benefit from watching it. If so, please take a minute to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. It costs you absolutely nothing, and I certainly do appreciate your support. If you've not seen any of my previous videos, please feel free to browse my channel and check out my previous content. As previously mentioned, the mechanical techniques that we practice, even if perfectly executed, should be complemented with a strategy and or a psychological framework to prepare yourself for the realities of combat. As always, feel free to comment and let me know your thoughts, as I do appreciate your feedback. You can also email if you prefer at KaJuKenBoNapoli@gmail.com. Without any further delay, let's get started. So principle number 3 is independent movement. It's very important to make sure that your movement is independent and does not provide any telltale indicators or leading centers that will alert your opponent to what your next move might be. In other words, you don't want to telegraph. As fighters, we need to cultivate and develop a sense and or the ability to read body language, such as a dip in the shoulder or lateral movement of the chest that lets you know that a punch or kick might be coming. It's very important that we not only develop the skill in reading our opponents, but also to develop the skill of not providing indicators to our opponents that will telegraph our next move. We need to keep in mind relaxation versus tension, as tension will only amplify the indicators that we put off. We must practice principle number 1 and ensure that we set up ourselves for the fight mentally as well as physically. Relaxation has a dramatic effect on the initial speed when we do attack. The last component I'd like to mention in principle number 3 is to always keep in mind considering using a direct angle of attack. Just like a road trip, the fastest route from the target to the target is a straight line. Since we already mentioned initial speed, or principle number 4, what is initial speed? It's the speed that we reach our target from a resting position. Whether you're already prepared in a fighting stance, or if your hands are at your sides when somebody attacks you on the street. It's the most important of all speeds, and something you should strive to develop as you train in sparring, as well as during combative or street defense drills. Again, relaxation is key, and then you explode when you attack. Again, the components that make up initial speed, as mentioned in an earlier video, are relaxation, explosion, independent motion, and changes in rhythm. This brings us to principle number 5. Principle number 5 is critical distance, or critical distance line, or simply put, your range to the target. Are you inside or outside of your opponent's maximum reach, and vice versa? It's not only very important to develop your ability to judge your opponent's critical distance line, but also being able to determine where to position yourself based on your ability to bridge the gap in relationship to your own critical distance line. Principle number 6 is line of attack. We already mentioned you should consider using a direct angle of attack in discussing independent movement. This varies dramatically based off of your position relative to your opponent or your opponents. Additionally, the strikes you use will also vary based on position and number of attackers. You'll also want to consider principle number 2, positioning, especially if there are multiple attackers. You should consider this while training using 3 primary distances. There's the inside line of attack, where you are closer to your opponent, where primarily your knees and your elbows will be most effective. Then you have your middle line of attack, where you're still inside the critical distance line, where punches and kicks will be most effective. And finally, there's the outside line of attack, where you're outside the critical distance line, but unfortunately, your opponent is also outside of yours. This brings us to the next principle, number 7, which we call bridging the gap. While you may be more comfortable in one zone or the other, the outside line of attack is a safe zone. But one must be able to develop the skill of closing that gap, using each of the lines of attack along the way until the threat is neutralized. Initial speed, coupled with proper footwork, will help you to bridge the gap, but you must also be skilled in fighting in each of the zones, with the most dangerous being the middle line of attack. One strategy is to strive to be in the outside briefly, in the middle, and then inside. Always keep in mind the critical distance line, using your footwork to bridge the gap as necessary, along with extensions, hyperextensions, and double hyperextensions. When you commit, you must keep in mind, are you fully committed? Are you all in? Or are you testing your opponent and only halfway committed? If you're using extensions or hyperextensions, then that in itself is another form of commitment, as you'd be pretty hard pressed to stop yourself during a hyperextension. While we place most of the focus of number 7 on bridging the gap, as neutralization of your target is the main goal, you must also be able to use this principle in reverse to open the gap. Now, we've covered several principles. We've covered 3 through 7 in this video. At least we scratched the surface. As always, these principles are not all inclusive, and I would challenge you to add to them as you explore and continue to develop as a martial artist. The principles often build on one another and often overlap. These are intended to be thought-provoking and to help you to train and to develop your skill sets and your mindsets as a fighter. I hope that you enjoyed this small video and that it benefits you in your training. As always, please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below, and hit the subscribe button as well as the alerts bell so that you'll be notified anytime I upload new content. I appreciate your support, and I thank you for watching. My name is Sifu Dave Charlesworth from KaJuKenBo Napoli. Mahalo.